Good evening, everyone. I'm Deborah Amos. I'm your host for this evening. Some of you may have heard me on the radio. It doesn't really matter. I'd like to welcome you all to this special night, the Eisenhower Fellowship Annual Awards Dinner. And thank you for all of you who are slapping your forks on your glasses. We want to thank our host for this evening, Gail Harrity, president of the Philadelphia Museum of Art. I was here 2 years ago, and we are upmarket. Gail is an Eisenhower Fellow, and she and her team have really laid out the red carpet for us tonight in this absolutely extraordinary setting. We also want to thank Philadelphia Mayor Jim Kenney for joining us at the cocktail reception earlier this evening. Mayor Kenney has been a big supporter of the Eisenhower Fellowships. And how about a hand for those mummers? A special Philly welcome for all of you. They were really great. Tonight, we celebrate fellows doing amazing things around the world, and we honor two leaders who embody the vision of President Dwight Eisenhower, the namesake of this organization, a man who they happen to know quite well. This evening, we also welcome the new chairman of Eisenhower Fellowships, former U.S. Secretary of State Robert Gates and Mrs. Gates. Let's have a hand for a new chairman. Secretary Gates took the reins this morning, presiding over his first annual meeting of the board. Tonight, he and Mrs. Gates helped celebrate the best of Eisenhower Fellowships. We have an exciting program this evening, and so with no further ado, we're going to get started. I'd like to welcome to the podium my friend and my former colleague. We were fellows together once when we were children at the Neiman program at Harvard, George DeLama, president of Eisenhower Fellowships.
Thank you, Deb. We're grateful to my good friend and colleague, Deb Amos, for agreeing to join us tonight, especially since it's her birthday. Happy birthday, Deb. We want to thank Mayor Jim Kenney for joining us at a reception earlier. As Deb said, the mayor has been a great supporter of Eisenhower Fellowships, and we're deeply grateful. We also want to thank our host tonight, Gail Harrity, the president of the Philadelphia Museum of Art. Gail is an Eisenhower Fellow who loves this organization. Thank you, Gail, for this spectacular venue and everything you do for EF. Nice digs. Thank you very much. It's been a memorable couple of days, and we have an exciting evening ahead. So we'll get to it. Please, everyone, if you haven't yet, do start in on your salads. No reason to wait. We gather tonight to welcome our new chairman and to celebrate our fellows. Tonight, we present the Eisenhower Medal of Leadership and Service to two distinguished leaders who personify President Eisenhower's legacy and his vision of a world where direct dialogue leads to understanding, the essential first step on any road to peace. We honor tonight an amazing fellow from Indonesia for her tireless work to advance the well-being of the people of her country who are suffering again this week from the global scourge of terrorism. We also introduce you tonight to our 2018 Global Fellows who today mark the end of their 7-week programs of travel across the United States, and to our USA and China Fellows who traveled overseas on fellowships last year. Joining them are 170 of our Eisenhower Fellows who have traveled here from 43 countries around the world, including a group of our Filipino Fellows celebrating their 30th anniversary of their fellowship. Where are you? Let's give them a hand. Unable to join us tonight because of illness is one of the most distinguished and beloved fellows in our global network, Nazir Kurdar, the longtime head of our chapter of fellows in Turkey. But here from Istanbul tonight, representing Nazir, is his son, Omer Kurdar. Omer, our Filipino fellows, and all of our Eisenhower fellows are here tonight. Please stand. All of our fellows, please stand. Once a fellow, always a fellow. They're why we do what we do. We're delighted to be joined in this celebration by our new chairman, the ninth chairman of Eisenhower Fellowships, former U.S. Secretary of Defense Robert M. Gates and Mrs. Gates. Welcome both to the EF Global family. Your distinguished career, Mr. Secretary, and the values you champion are reflected in this organization, and we're honored and grateful that you will be leading us. We also salute our Vice Chair and Eisenhower Medal honoree of last year, Governor Christy Todd Whitman. The Chair of our Executive Committee, Jim Hovey, and our dedicated Board of Trustees, featuring 7 new trustees since our last annual meeting, including the first trustees in EF history in India and Pakistan, Pawan Singh and Shahid Mahmood. You might recall Shahid was our Distinguished Fellow Award winner 2 years ago in 2016. Please, Pawan and Shahid and all of our trustees, please all stand and be recognized. We are so grateful for your leadership and your commitment. We're pleased to be joined tonight again by Sir John Swan, the longtime Premier of Bermuda, and our many other distinguished guests who have descended on Philadelphia this week. I'd like to give a special thanks, again, to our most generous supporters, the biggest contributors to our annual fund and our endowment. And you can save your applause till the end. But Ellen Coleman, David Mankey, Tim McBride, and United Technologies Corporation, Jim and Carol Hovey, Mark Greer and Prudential, the J.T. Ty Foundation, Mark Benioff and Salesforce, Jay Pryor and Chevron Corporation, John Keogh of Chubb, Kimball and Patricia Chen, Jim and Louise McCabe, Edgar and Ellie Coleman, Ambassadors Chuck and Sue Kyle, Matt Manders, Jeffrey Singer, Steve Paliuka, Pawan Singh and Bain Capital, Dory Friend, Ben Sirachi and the Exxon Foundation, Governor Whitman, Namir Kurdar, Mohammed Al-Ardi and InvestCorp, Anin and Dini Bakri, Shahid Mahmood, and Christopher Fong and Taiwan Health Tech Ventures. Thank you all for your magnificent generosity. We'd also like to thank our sponsors for tonight's dinner and today's events, Northern Trust, and our trustee in the Philippines, Jaime Augusto Sobel de Ayala. Thank you for helping make possible this wonderful day. 2 of our most generous supporters could not be here tonight. Trustees Hap Wagner and Harry Halloran are courageously confronting new health challenges in California and Florida, respectively. We're sending strong prayers and all good thoughts their way. It is my privilege to announce tonight that Eisenhower Fellowships has established the Hap and Marcia Wagner Fellowship for an annual Eisenhower Fellow in the San Francisco Bay Area in perpetuity. To honor Hap and Marcia's many years of extraordinarily generous support for EF. It is because of your generous gifts that we can do what we do and help support and connect our exceptional fellows around the world. The Eisenhower Fellowship is a unique transformational experience, as we will hear tonight from 2 of our fellows, Candace Smith and Vlad Voiculescu. Candace is from my hometown, Chicago. She embodies our belief that these days is as important, if not more so, for Americans to know about the rest of the world as it is for leaders overseas to know about us. That's why we're working to grow our USA program that sends ascendant American leaders overseas, even as we unveil tonight a number of new international initiatives. I'm pleased to announce that EF will host a new Saudi Arabia program this September that will bring 10 Saudi fellows to the United States for a special 1-month fellowship. This pilot program follows on our Middle East and South Asia program last fall. No less than 7 of the 10 fellows selected for this pilot program are Saudi women. How wonderful is that? This fall, we will also welcome to the United States some 24 leading innovators from around the world in our second innovation program. Innovators engaged in groundbreaking work in the fields of employment and artificial intelligence, education, health and life sciences, energy and the environment, and design, the design of new systems that ties all these fields together. All in all, I'm delighted to report that EF will host a record 77 fellows this year, the highest number in the history of the organization. This fall, we're also planning an exciting Women's Leadership Conference in London in conjunction with an EF European Regional Meeting from October 25th to 27th. So please mark your calendars and plan to join us in London in October. Then next spring, Eisenhower Fellowships is planning another special initiative to mark a milestone in the history of the organization. In 1989, under President Dory Friend, Eisenhower Fellowships hosted an extraordinary All-Ireland program that brought together 14 fellows, half from Northern Ireland, half from the Republic of Ireland. They quickly bonded, and a few short years later, some of these Eisenhower Fellows found themselves facing each other across the table, directly helping negotiate the Good Friday Peace Accords that ended generations of hostilities on the island. So next May, we're tentatively planning a second All-Ireland program to mark the 30th anniversary of the historic original program that so vividly demonstrates EF's enormous impact. We want to bring another 14 Irish fellows, half from the north, half from the south, back to the U.S. to carry on the work their predecessors began 3 decades ago. Some of our Irish fellows are here tonight, and this idea came from them, a wonderful sign of our fellows' lifelong engagement with the organization. It's all contingent now on funding, and we're going to work closely with them to make it a reality. But for all of these activities, our fellows set a high bar last fall with our dynamic global conference in Malaga, Spain on the future of work. Co-hosted by our fellows in Spain and Jordan, the conference brought together Eisenhower Fellows and other prominent thought leaders from around the world, 329 participants from 49 countries. They intensively networked, and I would beg to differ with the Vice President, former Vice President Biden. If you do it right and it's about collaboration, networking is a very good muscular verb. They networked, they exchanged ideas, they explored concrete solutions through a host of creative projects with a real-world impact. In Malaga, we launched an exciting new initiative, the Eisenhower Youth Network, 32 outstanding young people ages 18 to 25 from 20 countries who are now integrated into the activities of the fellows in their nations. We have with us tonight 5 of those young leaders who've traveled halfway around the world to be here. 2 of them from the Philippines and 2 from Rwanda who were denied visas to join us in Malaga last fall. But they're here now, and I'd like to introduce you to them. Please stand as I call your name. From the Philippines, Nurhati Tanging and Mosab Haji Nasser. From Rwanda, Nancy Sibao and Rosine Mwizenetsa. And from China, Weixing Liu. Part of our inaugural group of Eisenhower Young Leaders, ladies and gentlemen. They are the future. Let's give them a hand. So we hope to build on the momentum from Malaga and are planning our next global conference tentatively for somewhere in Latin America in spring 2020. So stay tuned. So we have a lot going on as we transition to our new board leadership under Secretary Gates. All of this activity underscores an important truth. In today's angry, anxious, and unstable times, the mission and core principles of Eisenhower Fellowships remain unchanged. They guide and illuminate our work as an independent, non-governmental, nonpartisan, nonprofit organization, just as they have for 65 years now, through countless global crises and times of conflict. During 11 successive U.S. administrations, both Republican and Democratic, through wars hot and cold. Eisenhower Fellows build bridges and tear down the walls that divide us. This is what we do, and this is who we are. I firmly believe with every fiber of my being that this citizen diplomacy that our fellows engage in all over the world is more important and relevant now than ever before. In this, as in everything else, we deeply appreciate the invaluable contributions of our trustees, donors, and friends around the world. So tonight I want to thank you all for your support and ask for your help going forward. If you are in a position to give, and if you like what you've seen here these last couple days, please just text EF Journey, all one word, EF Journey, to the number on the screen, 33222, and you can make an online donation now, right from your cell phone. Every little bit helps. Your investment in our future is indispensable to everything we do, as we honor those leaders who inspire us to do more. Thank you very much.
So now we will meet some of the fellows and to the meat of this program. We'll hear from 2 fellows tonight, one American and one international, about the power of their Eisenhower Fellowship experience. Our first speaker tonight is a USA Fellow, Candace Smith, the Director of Global Engineering and External Technical Affiliations at the Boeing Company. Candace was one of the first fellows selected from EF's new Chicago hub. In her day job, Candace leads efforts to integrate engineering strategies and partners with technical organizations to drive technical success for Boeing, the world's largest aerospace company. Her unique journey has taken her from the south side of Chicago to help test the weapon systems on the F-18 fighter. But her passion to help expand educational opportunities, particularly in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics to young people lacking access to them. As an Eisenhower Fellow, Candace traveled to Singapore and to Kenya to examine social innovation trends and explore how to bring STEM education initiatives to underserved populations. In a short period, Candace has traveled a long way, touching everyone on her path with her relentless drive and determination and her extreme lack of pretension and deep and innate kindness. Candace Smith, welcome to the stage.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I am honored and honestly beside myself to be standing here representing the USA 2017 Fellows to welcome, right on, those are my people, to welcome Secretary Gates as our new chairman of the Board of Trustees. It is truly an honor. So the Fellows of 2017 are an extraordinary group of people. I've never in my travels personally and professionally met a group of people who are so dedicated to what we all have signed up for in terms of unity and mission to go out and better the world around us. So to my fellows, thank you for your influence and impact over this last year, and it's an honor to stand here and represent you today. I want to say a big thank you, first of all, to the staff of EF for your patience and persistence. We can be a handful. To our sponsors for your generosity. To George, sir, for your edge, your energy, and your leadership. Thank you. And to the Board of Trustees, some of you whom I've had the pleasure of meeting this weekend, for your support. And I really think for the benefit of your wisdom through a life lived in leadership, we are benefactors of that wisdom, so thank you. My journey started with EF Fellows at the Boeing Company. Actually, Carol Hibbert, a fellow from 2012, gave a brown bag. I had never heard of this woman. She's in finance, I was in engineering. And I remember her just sharing this journey, and it was so moving and so powerful. I was an individual contributing engineer at the time, and I thought there's no way I would ever be able to do something like that. Fast forward 5 years later, a series of fortunate events that brought me back to Chicago, and I was told and made to believe that I was ready to apply for this fellowship. I went into that interview a bag of nerves, kind of like how I am right now. And there was I didn't know he was a trustee then, but there was a trustee who asked me why I thought I had the answers. And I said, I don't think I do, but I will be part of the solution. And whether or not I was accepted into the fellowship, that flame was reignited in me. That trustee was Jeff Singer. And since that time, this gentleman, and because I love to dance, and the fellows and the staff and EF knows this, I'm gonna use a dance analogy. Jeff has, in Chicago, invited me to the party, given me a plate of food, introduced me to some of his closest friends, and joined me on the dance floor. Now, if that's not a warm welcome, then I don't know what it is. So to Jeff, a sincere thank you for your mentorship. So, like any good fellow, I should have updated my bio, but I am now the Deputy Chief Engineer of Boeing Global Services. As mentioned, Boeing is the largest aerospace company in the world, and I like to think that many of you share this thought that if it ain't Boeing, I ain't going. Okay, so when you're flying around the world, get on a Boeing jet. But at the company, we have this unity of mission to connect, protect, explore, and inspire the world. And I'm fortunate to have the company's support to have gone to Singapore and Kenya to, in short, kind of study the intersection between youth and innovation. I come from the part of Chicago that you hear about on the news, but what you don't hear about is the resilience and resourcefulness of the people in that community. So I wanted to go to Kenya, which had been dubbed, I didn't know at the time, the Silicon Valley of Africa. Yes, the whole of Africa, in Nairobi. And then I also wanted to discover and have discussions in Singapore, which was this incredibly cutting-edge city that just spoke of innovation. So I get to Singapore and I'm meeting all these incredible people, you name it, from government members to philanthropists to, I didn't get access to the kids though, unfortunately. I heard from adults who kind of spoke for them. But I learned that in cultivating this national agenda, Singapore did not cultivate a culture of resilience amongst the youth. They are finding that their youth are not very resilient. Well, innovation requires resilience. It requires resourcefulness. And so Singapore officials shared with me a concern about the future of innovation in that company because it's not being led by the youth. So I gallivant on to Nairobi, Kenya. And I get there expecting, oh, Kenya is a developing country. They need so much help and so on and so forth. And again, they've been dubbed the Silicon Valley of Africa. But like the kids on the south side of Chicago, those youth drove innovation. They drove that movement. And they are naturally, organically resourceful, resilient, because they have to be, and that's what innovation is about. And so I want to bring that spirit back to Chicago to help these youth understand that innovation is not this sexy thing that's unattainable for them. The process of innovation can be used to help them gain independence and overcome the cycles that have plagued them for years, decades. So I hope to bring that back to the youth by partnering with an organization, not starting my own because we have enough, and helping the youth understand how to leverage innovation. So to Secretary Gates, though, I remember early in my career, I don't have a political background, but I remember this picture of General Colin Powell, Dr. Condoleezza Rice, and something about that picture resonated with me. When it resonates, I want to learn more, so I want to learn more about them. And Secretary Gates, you were in a picture with Dr. Rice, and so I wanted to learn more about you, and so I did. And so the three of you kind of inspired me to consider a career in academia and then retire into civil service as perhaps a senator. Well, I have since decided not to join the circus, and I am going to continue my journey in the EF. And so to Dr. Gates, I want to say to you, welcome, welcome. Listen, come in, get a plate of food, meet some 400 of your newest and closest friends who stand in unity of mission as you take this organization to a place. This world is transforming, and with you at the leadership, I think that you will help us remain a catalyst for change around this world. We stand and move with you. So come in, have a good time, and I can't wait to see you on the dance floor. Thank you.
Candace, you're terrific. I guess we can have that dance at the next event. We have a second fellow tonight, Vlad Vasily Voiculescu. He's from Romania. He started his career as a banker in Austria, focusing on finance of social infrastructure projects and Central and Eastern Europe. Then life intervened and he changed directions. At the age of 34, as an entire political generation disappeared in Romania, he has already served as a minister of health in Romania and has founded 3 startup organizations to tackle the staggering healthcare situation in his country, where they face the highest cancer mortality rate in the EU, yet only 1 single public hospital has been built in the last 35 years, and this since before the collapse of communism. Now, Vlad is taking on an even bigger challenge. He's working with the former prime minister of his country. He's founded a new political party, and he's preparing to run for the mayor of Bucharest, the capital, a traditional seat of power in Romania. Clearly, this is an Eisenhower Fellow on the move. Please welcome Vlad Vasily Voiculescu.
Thank you. I can't dance. but I'm definitely very honored to be here. I was born in a small village in communist Romania. My mother was a school teacher, my father was an entrepreneur. We were one of the very few lucky families who owned a VHS player. So we would watch American movies and American concerts. And they shaped our thinking, our hopes, and sometimes they even shaped our careers. I became an economist because my father watched Pretty Woman. Yeah. So he thought Richard Gere was really cool. He was wealthy and powerful and wanted me to be the same. So I became a banker in Vienna, and a couple of years later, through a friend, I heard about the severe shortages of cancer drugs in my homeland, and this disgusted me. And so I established a volunteer European network of drug supply that aided over 2,500 patients in my home country. Somewhat similar to what was described in an American movie as well. It's called Dallas Buyers Club. After meeting children suffering from cancer while I was bringing drugs, I understood that all they wanted to do was play. So inspired by an American movie icon called Paul Newman, who set up the Hole in the World Gang Camp, the first camp for children with cancer, I set up the first camp for children with cancer in Romania. That was in 2014. And in 2016, on this very day, I was appointed Minister of Health in the technocratic government of Romania. Over the last 10 years, I have held several roles, none of which, however, define who I am. My cohort of fellows have similarly crossed many boundaries in their multiple roles. We have a law professor who wants to change education. We have a philosophy graduate that is revolutionizing journalism. We have an economist that is aiming to train doctors for the challenges of the 21st century. And so for me, the lesson is, it is not your education, it is not the place you come from, and it is not even what you say you stand for that defines you. It is your passion, it is your battles, it is what you do. I am part of a generation that has lived in communism too little to remember all its hardships, but enough through the ordeals it has generated to never be able to forget it. We are now part of a generation that is living through a new wave of populism that appears focused on emphasizing our differences and accentuating our separation. In my country, the current ruling coalition, using a puppet government, is increasingly moving against its own people, against everything that describes a free society, against the rule of law, against the freedom of the press, of protest, and of the political process. And not one day passes in my country that the most basic principles are not under attack. And various red lines are being crossed every day. So with the words of President Eisenhower in my head, neither a wise man nor a brave man lies down on the tracks of history to wait for the train of the future to run over him, I will be running for mayor of Bucharest. I have also announced a new political party, a party of principle, a party of the people, and it is called Romania Together. In just 3 weeks, and I was actually here in these 3 weeks, 3 short weeks, we have a community of over 50,000 people that have joined us. So in the face of So in the face of politicians who emphasize our differences, we, however, will emphasize our togetherness by leveraging our differences to strengthen our collective cause. So with the theme of American movies and American music in mind, Cat Stevens once said that you can argue with a philosopher, but you cannot argue with a good song. So I left my country tired and bruised by the efforts that I needed every day to stand up to injustice. I was thinking back then what I needed from this fellowship that I was so lucky to be awarded. And what I needed was a new song, a new movie, a new rhythm, and maybe even some new tones. And I found this, and so much more. The tone was provided by the amazing people I met here. The fellows, the professors, the entrepreneurs, the politicians, the public servants that I've met around here. But without rhythm, there is no music. And the rhythm was ensured by your generosity. As trustees, as members of the board, and staff of this amazing organization. So I stand among my 2018 Global Fellows and feel optimistic that together we are in the business of creating a new song, a new script for our new movie, that together we can build bridges and tear down walls. In the words of Robert Kennedy, each time someone stands up for an ideal, or acts to improve the lot of others, or strikes out against injustice, he sends forth a tiny ripple of hope. And crossing each other from a million different centers of energy and daring, those ripples build a current which can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance. Ladies and gentlemen, 25 ripples of hope.
We'd like to resume with the presentation of the first award of the evening. Thank you very much, all you clinkers. Yes, 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 please. The Distinguished Fellow Award is based on outstanding personal achievement and significant contributions to the Eisenhower Fellows Global Network. Can you hear me? Everybody? Okay, thank you. Our recipient tonight is a woman of great integrity and substance who has dedicated her life to serving the people of her nation and her region. Mari Pangestu has been a government minister, a distinguished academic, a successful business leader, and stuck in traffic in New York, and she made it on time. Exactly, that's what's to clap for. She's worked tirelessly to bring economic development to Indonesia and better the lives of those who need it most. I'd like to ask Mari and the chairman of the Eisenhower Fellowship, Secretary Robert Gates, to come up to the stage for the presentation of the 2018 Distinguished Fellow Award to Mari Pangestu. Glad you made it.
Our Distinguished Fellow Award winner this evening exemplifies the lifelong nature of the Eisenhower Fellowship. For 28 years, since her fellowship travels to the United States in 1990, Mari Pangestu has combined sparkling career achievements with an extraordinary engagement with our organization. As Indonesia's Minister of Trade and later as Minister of Tourism and Creative Economy, Mari helped shape a strong and vibrant economy in her country. Her skillful leadership placed her at the head of Indonesia's international trade delegations and negotiations. Her service as chair of the World Trade Organization's G33 meeting demonstrated her commitment to working across borders and cultures. This Eisenhower Fellow has had a strong presence on the world stage, serving on several international task forces, including the United Nations Secretary General Millennium Development Goals Review and the Leadership Council of the UN Sustainable Development Solutions Network. She has been a member of the High-Level Commission on Carbon Prices, a distinguished Asian Global Institute Fellow at the University of Hong Kong, a board member of the Australia-Indonesia Council, and a member of the Global Future Council on Trade and Investment at the World Economic Forum. As she worked to connect leaders around the world, Mari continuously reached out to her fellow Eisenhower Fellows to join in this global collaboration, working in partnership with the Indonesian Eisenhower Fellows on a number of high-impact projects that support local culture and women's initiatives. These include an important cultural heritage project, a business accelerator for fashion entrepreneurs, an initiative to create livable cities, and a new journalistic platform to increase transparency and accountability in her nation, to name but a few. For her distinguished professional achievements, her dedicated public service and global leadership, and for her exceptional engagement with the Eisenhower Fellowships to drive positive change in Indonesia, I am proud to present the 2018 Distinguished Fellow Award to Mari Pangestu. The actual award, which is very heavy.
Okay.
I think
Yes, it
we'll
is, you're
take
right.
it off your hands so you don't have to deal with it.
Thank you very much for helping me with the weight of that award. Honorable Robert Gates, Chairman of the Board of Trustees of the Eisenhower Fellowship, Mr. George Delama, President of the Eisenhower Fellowship, distinguished members of the Board of Trustees, fellow Eisenhower who are all present here tonight, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I'm honored to receive the Eisenhower Fellowship 2018 Distinguished Fellow Award, not just for myself, but on behalf of all the Indonesian Eisenhower Fellows, who some of them may be here tonight, I think, but who I wish could all be here tonight to witness this wonderful gathering of Eisenhower Fellows. I would like to take this opportunity to appreciate and commend the Eisenhower Fellowship as an organization which has contributed to the leadership journey of many fellows, including my own. You could say that my 3 decades of professional and personal journey started with the 2.5 months Eisenhower Fellowship in 1990. So when I did my fellowship in 1990, as was just mentioned, I did it with 9 other Indonesian fellows as part of the Single Nation program on Indonesia. I had recently graduated with my degree in economics, just started a risky career as a reform advocate in pre-democratic Indonesia. It was risky because just to question and to say some criticism could get you into trouble at that time. And I was also recently married in 1990. In fact, I found out that I was expecting my first child during my fellowship. So the first person I told that I was pregnant was my fellow, not my husband. So that's why it sticks in my mind, that it was a personal journey as well. So despite bouts of morning sickness during my 2.5 months EF program, I still managed to do a deep dive in various areas of my interest. I met many first-class economists, such as the Nobel laureate Milton Friedman. I visited incredible think tanks and policy organizations such as Brookings, such as CSIS Washington, and so on. And I also visited various types of communities that you have in the US. And I had very enjoyable memories of homestays with several American families. All these were building up networks and friendships that last till today. We listened. We as Eisenhower Fellows in the Single Nation program, we listened, we learned, and we were inspired, but we were also humbled by the leadership challenges that we knew lay ahead. But truly, the EF journey helped to frame my ideas. I came back emboldened with my belief to advocate for good policy that served the people, not special interests, to fight for needed economic and political reforms. I was also emboldened because I could see that in the US, it was merit-based, it was tolerant of differences and allowed people of minorities to achieve. So I was very emboldened that as a woman, as a minority of ethnic Chinese origin and Catholic in religion, that I could also contribute to the development of my country. The opportunity for action in terms of policy making and real action came in 1998. In an unprecedented political and economic crisis, all changed. Indonesia did not break up due to the crisis as feared, and in fact, there was this incredible opportunity to undertake reforms and change. I myself and many other Indonesians, including Eisenhower Fellows Indonesian Eisenhower Fellows, we were all part of the reform movement. And we all were fellow travelers on the journey to build a new Indonesia. The journey continues today with EF Indonesia and with many other fellows that we know from all over the world. We endeavor to continue to identify leaders, future leaders, in the spirit of the Eisenhower Fellowship, that we continue to participate in the global and special programs. We continue to participate in all the regional meetings and global meetings, and we strive hard to nominate future leaders, especially women, and with various representation from government, academia, civil society, private sector, media, and even the military and the police. And we strive hard to collaborate on many fronts, not just nationally, but internationally, and do many initiatives in Indonesia. Finally, I would like to close by recognizing that my success as a reform-minded policy advocate and then transitioning into actually having to make the policy with some successes in reform, but no doubt also with failures, was not mine alone. It was a collective journey with many travelers, including with many Eisenhower Fellows, not just in Indonesia, but somehow or other you always I always say there's an Eisenhower Fellow under every stone. Somehow I meet them everywhere, and in Japan, wherever, and in many of, as a government, I also met them, and we always take picture, and together, and we share. So I should make a collection of that all. And I would like to also acknowledge the support of my family, my husband Adi, my two sons Ray and Arya. Arya is here, Ray is not. Ray was the one who was in my stomach as part of maybe the youngest Eisenhower Fellow. So I really have not just fond memories on the personal basis, but also very, very good memories of how many things that shaped my ideas. And I think I would like to believe that it really helped to shape what I did later in life. And I think we have many, many leaders in Indonesia who have gone through this fellowship program. So thank you, Eisenhower Fellowship, for starting me on my incredible journey. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mari. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Now we come to the presentation of the 2018 Dwight D. Eisenhower Medal for Distinguished Leadership and Service. I would like to invite Secretary Gates to come back up to the stage. Thank you.
This is really a proud moment for me. In a complex world riven by epic disruption and political upheaval, our honorees tonight have distinguished themselves through their lifelong efforts to enhance knowledge and international understanding, promote cooperation across cultures, and advance the lasting legacy of one of the greatest leaders in American history. David and Susan Eisenhower are recognized leaders in their respective fields. David is a preeminent scholar of the American political system and the institution of the presidency, with an encyclopedic knowledge of the men who have held that office and the forces that drove their decisions and shaped the course of American history. Susan is a renowned international expert in national security with extensive hands-on experience in the former Soviet Union and deep expertise in nuclear proliferation, the militarization of space, and more recently, international and national energy policy. Both are accomplished authors, widely sought after speakers, and champions for the enduring values of our namesake, President Eisenhower. David and Susan, for many years, have worked tirelessly to preserve and to spread to new generations their grandfather's vision of a world where dialogue leads to understanding that helps confrontation give way to cooperation. In this mission, they have been dedicated ambassadors for Eisenhower Fellowships, an organization they both hold dear, serving as trustees and members of the executive committee of our board. For years, both have hosted our visiting fellows from overseas in the United States, immeasurably enriching their experience as a fellows with their keen observations of the current domestic and international political scene and their unique insights and remembrances of the grandfather they knew so well. For their distinguished professional achievements and for keeping brightly burning in the illuminating flame of Dwight Eisenhower, and for their selfless service to advance the mission of Eisenhower Fellowships and the work of our exceptional leaders around the world, I am proud to award the 2018 Dwight D. Eisenhower Medal for Distinguished Leadership and Service to David and Susan Eisenhower. I have to get the right medal around the right neck.
probably go a little longer than I will, so I'll talk first. Okay, we drew straws and I talk first. First of all, I want to say thank you very much to the board of Eisenhower Exchange Fellows, to the executive committee for this great honor. I am deeply, deeply honored. I want to thank you, Julie, for everything. My wife is here tonight. We're going to be celebrating our 50th anniversary this year. And anything that I am recognized for, Julie, of course, is part of. I want to congratulate my co-recipient, Susan. I've known Susan even longer than Julie. And I want to congratulate this organization, which is about as old as our relationship. 65 years ago, it has been 65 years since friends of Dwight Eisenhower made him a gift of this organization. And over the past 65 years, it has proven to be an enterprise for all seasons. In the season of Cold War, in the season of post-Cold War, in the season of fault lines and clashes of civilization, in the season of globalization. It has been an enterprise for all seasons. And I want to congratulate the Eisenhower Exchange Fellows tonight for the transition which has been accomplished. Secretary Gates is a terrific choice to lead this organization forward. I think he has a great deal in common with the man whose name graces this organization, Dwight Eisenhower. Secretary Gates was raised in Kansas. Dwight Eisenhower was raised in Kansas. And one of the interesting, I would say ironic, aspects of Dwight Eisenhower's life, ironic or interesting from a biographical point of view, is that he made his reputation serving in commands in London, North Africa, Italy. He made his reputation as a president, as a great internationalist, but he literally came, as he said, on June 12, 1945, from the very heart of America. He came from the geodetic center of the United States, and I think that his life symbolizes what the common spirit of America genuinely is. We are connected to people from everywhere, we are from everywhere, and we are genuinely citizens of the world and seek to be. Even people from the remotest hamlet of Kansas believe that, and those two men certainly have that in common. And so I have gratitude for everyone and congratulations. Julie and I love this organization, and we are proud to have served it in the way that we have. I feel very honored to have this tonight, and I know that this organization will continue long into the future. It will cast many pebbles into that pond, cast many ripples of hope, many ripples, many torrents of hope, and many currents of change in the years to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to the Board of Trustees for this wonderful award. It's really very moving for me. In the last 2 days, I've realized how very much this organization means to me. And I mean, it's so humbling as a member of the family to think that so many of you have been inspired by our grandfather's life. And so let me say that I'm not only intellectually interested in this organization, and from a personal point of view, have enjoyed all of my encounters. I'm really counting on this organization to do important things. We are the world. David is right. I have 8 grandchildren. I guess that says something, doesn't it? 4 of them are Brazilian, and 2 of them are Irish. And I have 2 that were actually born in the USA, but okay, we are the world. My interest in this organization is deep, not only because what you're accomplishing, but also I feel like I'm doing this too for my grandchildren, to bring the world closer together, to work on some of the most intractable issues facing this planet. No kidding. Look at the long-term implications of some of the trends that are underway today. We need you, and we're counting on you. Let me say that I was inspired in my own career by my own grandfather. Actually, frankly speaking, it's pretty hard to find something that he didn't touch in some way. But in the early years, when Secretary Gates was so deeply involved in, I guess he was Director Gates in those days, involved in U.S.-Soviet relations, I was too. And as a matter of fact, 30 years ago this year, among other activities that I engineered was a program to mark the General Exchanges Agreement of 1958. That was in the depths of the Cold War, and Dwight Eisenhower believed so much in the importance of personal contact that he established a bilateral agreement with the Soviet Union to assure that exchange among people would continue despite the political environment. And so this concept here today is an outgrowth of this firm and deep belief that actually ordinary people can make a substantial difference. So finally, in closing, let me just say one thing. George was very kind when he conveyed the news that the trustees had selected my brother and me. And I must say that the first thing that came to my mind was probably the way Ike felt when General Eisenhower felt when he was contacted to say that he was going to receive the Congressional Medal of Honor during World War II. I have to tell you that General Eisenhower refused the award. He said, "You know, that award is for valor and bravery. No general officer should receive it." And so I kind of felt that way. I feel actually so unworthy in the face of so many of you here in this room. And so I will accept this award. I will do it with pride, with honor, with appreciation, but I would like to also do so on behalf of the Executive Board and the Board of Trustees who provide their reputations, their wisdom, their support, and their commitment to sustain and grow this organization. And I have absolute confidence that this organization is on the cusp of something terribly important, and will do so under the leadership of Secretary Bob Gates. It will turn out who is one of the finest public servants of our time, a statesman and a patriot. And Secretary Gates, I can tell you the Eisenhower family, the executive committee, the trustees, and these fellows will be with you every step of the way. Thank you.
Thank you, David and Susan, for those heartfelt remarks. Thank you for an evening of being proud of our passports. Now the time has come to hear directly from a distinguished American leader, a man who served 8 presidents of both parties. He's had a couple of nights and a full day to digest and process what he's seen and heard here, and now we'd like to hear from him. The new chairman of the Eisenhower Fellowships, Secretary Robert M. Gates.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. As Bush 41 would do, it's late, and so first of all, Candace, about this dancing thing in my next life. Vlad, my first trip to Romania was on an advance for a visit by President Ford in 1975. And the Romanian security services were so ugly and so nasty, particularly because they knew I was a CIA guy assigned to the National Security Council staff, that as the door of Air Force One began to close for us to leave Bucharest, I gave the Romanian security officials out there on the tarmac the finger. It just seemed like the right thing to do. Well, this has been a wonderful initial, if I'd want to be a diplomat, I'd have gone to the State Department, okay? It's been a wonderful initial experience for me. I was so impressed today by the quality and the sophistication of the fellows, the dedication of the trustees. But I'd like to just offer a few thoughts with some perspective as the newcomer. The United States has been at war for 17 years. And I think it's worth reflecting for a moment on President Eisenhower's history and legacy. He became president in January of 1953 and left office in January of 1961. During that period, we had the Russians, the Soviets became a thermonuclear power. We had repeated crises with the Chinese over Taiwan and the Taiwan Straits. We had a major war in the Middle East involving our strongest allies, Britain, France, and Israel. We had revolutions in East Germany, Hungary, Poland, Cuba. In the early 50s, early in his presidency, the Joint Chiefs of Staff unanimously recommended that he use nuclear weapons to help the French in Dien Bien Phu and against the Chinese. And yet, as his biographer, Gene Edwards Smith, has written, from the time he signed the Korean Armistice in July of 1953 until he left office in 1961, not one American soldier lost his life in combat. What an amazing achievement. And it's because I think Dwight Eisenhower understood, of all things as a five-star general, the importance of non-military instruments of power. Today's meetings and tonight's awards are a reminder of the enduring importance of that understanding. I think there's no finer example of his belief in connecting people around the world than the Eisenhower Fellowships. The achievements of the fellows and the connections, the networks that the Eisenhower Fellowships has established and nurtured, the problems the fellows have tackled over the years would, I think, make President Eisenhower very, very proud. And as we consider the All-Ireland program, the Malaga Conference, the London Women's Leadership Conference this fall, initiatives with India, China, Saudi Arabia, and more, and the experiences, activities, and projects of the individual fellows, we see that Eisenhower Fellows can make a difference in a turbulent world, can truly help make the world a more peaceful, prosperous, and just place. I'm deeply honored to be a part of this endeavor and this global experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Everyone at Eisenhower Fellowship appreciates your service and your leadership, and sorry that you won't be dancing. Now, before we close this special evening, the Spring 2018 Global Fellows would like to leave you all with a few thoughts about their Eisenhower journey.
A leader of the generation of will do, must do, can do, not, cannot, will not, should not. Because for me, the status quo just won't do.
I am a leader of the generation of enough, enough to inequality, to no one left behind in war, but on the streets of home, left to beg for food and more. Enough to a class of working poor who pray their kids stay well. And enough to leaders who laugh like our earth resources are only theirs to sell. Because I will stand for this no more.
I am a leader in the coalition of the willing that will act in collaboration against the tyranny of the few, the one with you to make a difference. In maths and economic prosperity, in the reshaping of our news, in education, in our security, in our health, wealth, and solidarity, and in defense of our planet, our children, and our communities.
I am the one that does not care about the colour of your skin, the size and shape of the government you labour under, because what I care about is you and this planet. So let us ask, not what you want to be, but what problems we together will solve, so that we celebrate our similarities and reject those that say we are not the same.
Because I am.
We are.
We are a global voice.
In a time when it matters most.
Thailand,
España, Philippines,
South Africa,
New Zealand, Spain,
Mexico,
Northern Ireland,
Taiwan,
Egypt, Switzerland,
Great Britain,
Chile,
Ireland,
Japan,
Myanmar,
China,
Nigeria,
Argentina,
Romania.
Jamaica.
Brazil.
We are.
Eisenhower.
What a great way to end. My program says dinner is over, dessert bar opens, but I have 2 agenda items that I have to deal with. First, we'd like to remind you again that if you would like to support the work you have seen here this evening, there's a very easy way to do it. Please just text EF Journey, all one word, to the number behind me on the screen, 33222. I'm an NPR person. I know how this works. And you can make an online donation now, right from your cell phone. So, soon, the dessert bar opens. We've come to the end of our program. And before we invite you all to visit the dessert bar outside, I'd like to take a moment to recognize the amazing staff of Eisenhower Fellowships who worked so hard to prepare for this evening. Please stand as I call, and I hope I do not mangle your name. Aaron Hillman, Stephanie Group, Romana Lee Akiyama, Tom Ferguson, Monica Stergewald, Erica Cheslak, Susan Kohler-Reed, Sheila Kurtz, Natalie Brandt, Vicki O'Rourke, Carrie Utras, Koma Azi, Jake Snyder, Kelly Johnson, Colette Seidel, Lauren Zimone, Helene Roth, Mary Young, Nicholas Lake, Georgia Osuyu, Erin Harold, Catherine Leventhal, Anissa Cooper. Let's give them all a big hand and our heartfelt thanks, and George DeLama. That brings us to the end of the dinner phase of our evening. Please enjoy the dessert bar and the after-dinner refreshments outside. On behalf of everyone at Eisenhower Fellowships, thank you all, and good night.